Hey everyone, welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, insane people, and all that kind of stuff. And as usual, we'll be checking out some more Reddit posts today. So be sure to share your thoughts about today's stories down in the comments, and we're getting right into it. Karen can't comprehend I don't work in the OR. I work for a level 1 trauma center doing sterile processing. Level 1 trauma centers handle literally everything, and they never close at any point. Sterile processing is a department that exists in every hospital and handles the cleaning, repacking, and sterilization of all reusable instrumentation, for anything from trivial clinic procedures to massive multi-hour-long surgical operations. Hospitals literally cannot function without it. Given that the largest volume of instrumentation comes from the OR, the operating room, the department is typically located either directly above, below, or beside the OR, so that when rooms need extra instrumentation delivered, the response time isn't that high. This department also never closes, so we each have to work one weekend a month, and at least one holiday a year. I try to work all the holidays because I don't care that much, and I get double time and a half to do it. One weekend I was working. The cases that come to the OR on weekends are typically emergent cases for patients who came down from the ER. I was coming back from break and had to pass by some family consultation rooms, as they were directly between my department and the cafeteria. One thing to note is that in SPD, we wear the exact same scrubs that the OR wears. They're all laundered in the hospital so as not to introduce outside microorganisms into the surgical environment. So it's understandable that I can occasionally get confused for staff that might work directly in the OR. Anyways, this man who looked extremely nervous emerged from one of the rooms and flagged me down. I took a moment to respond to him because I'd had my earbuds in, blasting some dangerously loud punk rock. "Can I help you?" I said. "Yes, I want to know where my wife is. She's been in surgery for over an hour and I haven't heard anything." I'm not sure. I'm sure they'll come get you when they have news." "Well, why can't you tell me anything?" "I don't even work in the OR. I don't know who you or your wife is, and even if I did." He cut me off and he began to raise his voice. "Her name is, wife's name redacted because HIPAA. And you need to go find out an update now." "Sir, don't raise your voice at me. I told you I don't work in the OR. I can't help you." "Yes, you do. You're wearing the same uniform." "No, I work in sterile processing. I have to get back to work." I turn around to go and leave, but as I'm walking away, I feel a vice grip on my arm. I turn around to see him try to tell me not to walk away from him, but I start yelling first. "Yo, what the f***? Get your f***ing hand off of me." As this is happening, one of the nurses from the OR rounds the corner to see this guy grabbing me and getting into a screaming match with me. I don't remember how long this actually took because I was hopped up on adrenaline ready to fight this guy, but she had ran upstairs to the security office to grab one of the public safety officers and came back with several of them in tow. They managed to create some space between us and ended up placing us in different rooms. I fill them in on my version of events. I can hear the other guy screaming incoherently from the other room. One of the officers steps out when I'm told I can finally head back to my department to fill out an incident report. I see the entitled guy getting carted off in cuffs. I made it back to my department and notified the charge person of what had happened, and that I needed to fill out an incident report, which I did. From what I've gathered, assault is a horribly common occurrence for healthcare workers in patient-facing settings. I understand that being in the hospital can be emotionally overwhelming and stressful, but that's never an excuse to assault a healthcare worker. Some people. Update. This was my first experience like this, so I was definitely not well practiced in de-escalation techniques, so I do intend on brushing up on that. So I spoke with the educator, and there happens to be some de-escalation courses offered at the hospital I can click in for on my day off tomorrow and get overtime for, so I will be doing that. My heart bleeds for that guy's wife. I haven't heard any updates, but I'm sure she woke up from surgery with the news that her husband wouldn't be at her side that night, which effing sucks. I do kind of feel bad for the husband. I'm sure he was incredibly stressed out because of his situation. I just wish he had better control of his emotions. Neighbor hired company to cut tree in my backyard. Neighbor said he was tired of the tree over his driveway since it had significant wingspan. He hired a company and they decided to lop down over my fence to near my stump. Police report filed. Have the company on security footage that matches the business card. Reaching out to property lawyer Tuesday to see if this is significant enough to follow through in court. Our city requires a license to operate as a landscaper and other various trades. This company does not have a license as per one of the landscaper organizations. just to drop all their names in court and let the judge figure out who's paying. The neighbor claims no knowledge of the lopping off. Since this company is unlicensed, it wouldn't surprise me if they just lopped it off not caring. But our relationship isn't great, so wouldn't be surprised if he convinced them, saying I didn't mind. Both my gardeners, who also one is an arborist, don't think this tree will make it, and want to recut the stump of the offended tree to prevent decay/disease to the other stems, but no guarantees. I'm not an expert, but just relaying the information. 5 days later, end of week, so I figured I would post an update. The officer got the report done the same day, and he was able to reach out to the company who cut down my tree. He said he would reach out to me to settle this matter, but hasn't contacted me yet, and doubt he will actually do so. The officer went above and beyond in getting a statement from the other parties and getting the contact information. I have handed over the police report and security video to my lawyer, who is putting together paperwork. I have not been able to get an arborist to the house yet to evaluate the monetary damages yet. Maybe an update next week, but this should be a slam dunk, since all parties recognize the damages in the police report in case this does go to court. Lawyer drafting paperwork. We'll be going after the homeowner, his insurance. Not enough update to post a new one yet. Hopefully arborist will come this week. And the next update came 4 years later. This has been sitting in court for a while, but I keep getting PMs asking for updates. Tree/arborist company has default judgment pending, as they have not answered anything in the near year since the case was filed. Neighbors Insurance believes the tree company should be held solely responsible and hasn't budged. No settlements offered yet to our demands of valuation. Near or around 6 figures valuation. 2 years were a wash as the case wasn't filed. Case really picked up last year after a change of attorney. We've trimmed the tree since and fertilized to promote stabilization/health due to a missing trunk, but it'll have to be removed entirely. The arborist came in at a $30K valuation, treble damages plus trespassing monetary. And the next update is over a year later, or 5.5 years from the original post. Their insurance had their motion to dismiss denied, so settlement conference happened today. They ignored my lawyer's request to talk prior to get numbers, so the $0 offered from them in front of the judge wasn't a surprise. Our $125K request was $90K treble, $30K valuation from arborist, plus costs to restore the land as it'll be physically impossible to restore the tree with the development over the past 40 to 50 years. Yeah, we're willing to negotiate. It's a giant game. Conference happened and the judge graciously got us from $0 to $20K and said it's a good deal. I turned it down and I suggested that if this is the carrier's only offer, then we should go to trial as we aren't considering the professional's report and just an image of the stump instead. Some back and forth and nothing really moved, including the defense disagreeing with NYS tree law, that they were entitled to cut to the property line regardless if it killed the tree. Judge scheduled another settlement conference for the attorneys, but mandated I'm there, which I thought was funny, since I had no requirement to be there today, but she was surprised I said no to what was obviously $20K they were going to offer, when the adjuster picked up the phone regardless. One thing I did throw at the carrier after we disagreed with, quote, the tree was touching his house, was his client, defendant, requested Google Maps block his home, and it's now impossible to verify except through satellite that it was touching his home. It never was. All of this is bogus talk from both parties since it's settlement conference, but to me and my attorney, they are grasping at straws to get the judge on their side. He stated the tree was touching his home, which would suggest the tree had a 40-foot wingspan at that point, which maybe I should get the arborist to adjust his numbers if that's the case, because I don't think we went that far in high. And the next update is almost 6 years after the original post. One Redditor in the previous thread said there is no way this is worth any of it, but, well, the homeowners came up to $33K and I accepted that, and rolled the dice on the tree company. The judgment came out after we did an inquest hearing and the judge awarded the remaining balance of our damages. $63K. Proof. And yeah, there's the proof. It seems the main detail here is the part that says treble damages in the amount of $63,000 are awarded against the defendant. So yeah, some cases can take long, and to the doubters who think trees aren't worth money, here it is. Edit. Lawyer is 1/3 of anything recovered. Lawyer got $11K so far. Me $22K. Insurance check. We do the same split for anything we get from the tree company. Tree is still here. Although it does green over the years, you can clearly see it's less and less, specifically with the amount of branches dying. The evergreen cypress variant we have, arborists don't kill me for misnaming it, we planted along the side of the neighbor are all 10 to 15 feet tall now, making a wall from the neighbor as I weigh options on what to replace it with, because we like the shade it throws over the backyard with their other trees. Yeah, so if anything, that is certainly a pretty realistic timeline of how long these types of court cases can actually take. That all started in 2019 and it finally ended in April 2025. I think it is kind of funny how OP mentioned there were people in the comments throughout these posts that were doubting him, thinking trees can't be worth that much. But it seems the tree company and OP's neighbor might have been thinking the same thing, which is why they just went ahead and did what they did. And what do you know, it turned out to be a very expensive mistake. They handed me their baby and disappeared. Hi all, I am back with another story from my time working at a very popular theme park in Florida. A magical rat planet of sorts. This incident happened when I worked quick food service in resorts. I want to preface this by saying children like me for some reason. They stare at me, want me to hold them or play with them. In my 20s, children made me kinda nervous because I didn't know what to do with them and doubted I could care for one, which is wild considering I worked at Magical Rat Planet. However, my interactions with children there were usually short and polite. One day during an extremely busy lunch period, I was on my way to cash register when I paused to get by a large group of people. I felt a small tug on my shirt sleeve and looked to find a chubby baby hand holding it. The baby girl was adorable, with big blue eyes and not a lick of hair on her round head. I talked to her sweetly while her mother held her smiling. The baby reached out for me to hold her. Her mom gushed about how that never happened, how the baby was not usually social and didn't like other people. As mentioned above, I was used to this reaction from children. She told me it was okay to hold her and moved her closer to me. I was in a conundrum as I did not know this child, but obviously interacting with small humans came with the territory. I didn't want to be rude or seem mean. The baby's little arms were still up, so I said, "Just for a second," and picked her up. She was very chunky and cute. I started talking to the baby, who was just very comfortable on my hip. I looked up, and her mom, dad, and grandma had walked away, disappearing in the crowd. I didn't even know their names, the baby's name, or any identifying information other than their physical appearances. I walked around for 30 minutes, holding a happy baby looking for her family. After a while, one of my managers came out. I explained to him the situation and tried to hand him the baby. He threw his hands up and said, "That's all you have to find her parents." Another 10 minutes I'm walking with this kid before I spot Grandma. She spots me as well and tries to turn around and leave. I catch her and hand her back the baby. She looked semi-disappointed. People, you can't just drop your baby off to a complete stranger. They didn't even leave supplies, just handed me their infant and dipped. Needless to say, I didn't hold any more children, not even for a second. Edit, security wasn't called because, unfortunately, the situation wasn't uncommon and still isn't. Police would have to basically live there if they were called every time parents or guardians ditched their children at Magical Rat Planet. My incident is literally one of many. That's the unfortunate truth. Anyway guys, that's going to be all for today. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. Be sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more Reddit content like this. Anyway, I'm out of here, so stay tuned for more and I'll see you next time.